If people feel confused by your content, it's rarely because you don't know what you do. It's usually because your core message isn't coming across clearly. Welcome to Stories Build Businesses, the show that proves your story isn't just something to tell, it's the strategy that builds a business that's uncopyable, unforgettable, and unmistakably you. I'm your host, Megan Wright, story and strategy coach, and today we're talking about why mixed messaging confuses buyers and the reason it happens far more often than people realize. So let me start with something I see all the time. I'll ask someone, "What's your message?" And the thing that they reply is, "Oh, I help people with X," or "I'm a coach who supports people with Y." And I always think, that's not your message, that's your service. And I think some of the confusion comes from there are so many people telling you that you need an I help statement. I help this kind of person. I help this ideal client with this problem so that they can do this thing that they want to do. And that creates a really common misunderstanding because your message isn't a description of what you do or who you help. Your message is the idea that you stand for. It's the belief you hold. It's the perspective that you have. It's the thing you want people to associate with you, even if they never work with you. And the problem comes when message and service gets tangled because something starts to subtly happen. Each individual post might be helpful, thoughtful, well-written, but taken all together, they don't form a clear picture. People don't quite know what you're about, they don't quite get what you do, and they definitely don't know what you stand for. And over time, that uncertainty creates distance. Not because anything you're putting out is terrible, but because it doesn't have a clear core message. And that clear core message is what makes people feel safe to stay and safe to invest. I know this is the point at which I should say that I never used to do this, that I had no idea, but then I had a moment of clarity and now I'm sharing it with you. But that just wouldn't be honest, because honestly, I didn't accidentally find my message. I always knew what it was. I knew the beliefs and perspectives behind my work. I knew what I stood for. I was already using that as the compass for how I communicated. But what did shift was when I named that message outwardly, when I started saying it clearly and consistently publicly, when I started to use the words "stories build businesses," not just as a belief I held behind the scenes, but as a declaration that I made in front of everybody. Those 3 words weren't new to me. They'd been my core message at the heart of my business since it started. But when they became the title of my podcast, the name of my magazine, they took on a different kind of weight because suddenly my message wasn't just guiding my work, it was anchoring my whole business. And that's when I really felt the power of that distillation. Because there's something incredibly powerful about being able to say your message in just a few words. Words that you don't have to explain every time, words that people can remember, words that mean something beyond just what you do and who you help. If you think about brands that we'd recognize instantly, Nike doesn't just say, "We sell trainers." Their message is, "Just do it." McDonald's doesn't say, "Have a hamburger." They say, "I'm loving it." Skittles don't say, "Have some multicolored sweets." They say, "Taste the rainbow." The messages don't describe the product. They describe the experience, the feeling, and the point of view. And that's the whole point. Your message isn't meant to list what you offer. It's meant to act as a signal and a beacon. For me, Stories Build Businesses captures everything I believe. That story isn't decoration, that it isn't a marketing add-on, that it is foundational to how a business is built, recognized, and sustained. The thing I do is to help people apply that belief through story-led strategy, through their content, their offers, and the infrastructure of the business they're building. But what I stand for lives in those 3 words. And the thing keeping people stuck is that a lot of people build their business backwards. They start with what they do, then they try to turn it into content, and then they wonder why it sounds like everybody else. Because the truth is, if all you talk about is what you do, you become interchangeable. There are thousands of coaches, thousands of strategists, thousands of people talking about content, growth, mindset, or visibility. What cuts through isn't what you do, it's why you do it your way. Your message is the way that you see the world. And the clearer and simpler that lens is, the easier it is for people to see through it. When that lens shifts week to week, people experience what I call messaging whiplash. One day you're anti-hustle, the next day you're using urgency language. One post says you value sustainability, the next unintentionally slightly contradicts it. Not because you're inauthentic, but because you don't have a core message anchoring everything that you say. Your message is the drumbeat. Your content is the rest of the song. The drumbeat is what keeps the rhythm. It's what keeps everyone on pace and on track. If the drumbeat changes or disappears, people lose the beat. And when they lose the beat, they disengage. So rather than thinking of content as individual posts, it's important to remember that your audience experiences it as a body of work. This is where Care, Connect, Create becomes really important. Because care is where your core message lives. It's the thing you care enough about to keep saying it and the belief you're willing to repeat. Connect is how you express that message, the stories, the language, the perspective. And create is what you build on top of that, your offers, your services. When care is unclear, everything else wobbles. But when care is clear, the connections become easier and creating things feels like a natural extension of what you're talking about. Now, I'm going to be brutally honest. There is a cost to having a clear message. And it means choosing. It means constraint. It means not jumping on every single trend or tone shift. And I have to remind myself of this all the time. There are moments when it would be easier to talk about lots of different things, to see what other people are talking about and jump onto whatever is trending or what's working for other people. But businesses that last, they're not built on trends. They're built on trust. And trust comes from consistency. Think about any relationship in your life. If someone said one thing one week, contradicted it the next, you wouldn't necessarily feel unsafe, but you'd definitely feel unsure about whether or not you could trust them and rely on them. Mixed messaging works the exact same way. It doesn't push people away quickly, but over time, it erodes confidence in what you're saying. So I want to leave you with a few simple questions and an invitation. Do you know what message you want to be known for? And are you confident that it's coming through clearly and consistently? Because if not, then I'd love to invite you to my webinar on the 12th of February, all about finding your core message and making sure that you're avoiding confusing your audience through mixed messaging. The link to sign up will be in the show notes, and I would love to see you there. And as always, if this episode resonated, I'd love you to share it with somebody else who'd enjoy it and come and tell me over on Instagram at Stories Build Businesses. See you next time. Bye.